Hi, everyone. My name is Yvette Jordan Fillmore, and I am the Ersea coordinator with Nueces County Community Action Birth to Five Head Start program. With this PowerPoint, I will be covering the table of contents, which actually cover all of the Ersea forms, and then I will actually cover the Ersea component using the performance standards. Now, remember, the performance standards are the rules, guidelines, and the regulations that are set by the Office of Head Start that we are to follow and abide by. So let's go ahead and get started with this PowerPoint that is titled Hot Off the Press. So let's start off with reading our mission statement together. NCCAA works with partners to apply comprehensive strategies to eliminate the causes of poverty for people of Nueces County. Remember, those are the people that we service through our agency is within Nueces County. What is Ersea? I'm glad you asked. The first E is for eligibility, which we determine the eligibility according to the child's age and the family's income. Then we have recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance. Now we're going to start with going over some of our Ersea forms according to the table of contents in that order. So let's start with the record sign-in and out sheet. With the record sign-in and out sheet, this is in the child's binder. Each child will have a binder. Remember at the top there's a confidentiality statement, which pretty much just states that the child's record is confidential. So anything that you see in the child's record, please do not disclose it to any third party without consent. Then you see where it says to check the areas that apply: health, disability, mental health, nutrition, transition, third year transfer. This gives you just a little bit of information about the child. For example, if disability is checked off, then this is just stating that the child has a qualifying disability that's been approved either through ECI, if it's for early Head Start, or the local education agency, the ISD, for the Head Start child. If you see that health or nutrition is checked off, then most likely there is an IHCP that is enclosed in this child's record or uploaded in the database. Now, the child's name will be written on there, the date of birth of the child, and the original date of entry. Now, remember, if the child is going to be a second year, then the original date of entry will be the previous school year. When you go into this binder or the child's record, remember you are to print your name and initial after your name. Please initial. Then you're going to put the specific purpose of going into the record. So the family advocate is normally the one that creates this record when they do the enrollment. So the specific purpose will be enrollment, and you can put the school year. Some advocates write create record. Then you will actually put the date, 2-digit month, 2-digit date, 4-digit year, and the time in when you're actually starting to go into the record. Once you review, file, whatever the purpose is for you going into that record, remember to go back and write the time out once you've completed using this binder. The second line is normally, and it should be, the site-based manager. The site-based manager will review the record. Once the site-based manager reviews the record, the site-based manager will then pass it along to the teachers to review the record. Remember, both teachers will need to review all children's records in their classroom. So remember to make sure that you put the specific purpose for going into the record. Please do not just write file. Please be specific as to what you're filing. Remember, once the family advocate passed along the record to the site-based manager and the teachers, they have at least 48 hours to review the record and prepare any labels so that the child can start within the 48 hours. Remember, we only have 30 days to fill a slot, a vacant slot, uh, according to the performance standards. So we need to make sure that once the advocate has completed her task of creating the record, we as site-based managers and teachers review the record within 48 hours so the child is able to start. Once the teacher has reviewed the record, then it is the teacher's responsibility to give that parent a call to let her know the start date in which the family advocate or the site-based manager has given you to notify the parent. So the first tab that we're going to speak about is emergency information on the table of contents. As you'll notice that the child emergency information, which is the database child emergency information form, it actually is printed out from the database and placed in the child's record. There should be previous database, which is the 1520 report from Child Plus that is filed in the child's record from previous school years. Please do not remove, just place the current year on top. Then we have the NCCAA emergency contact form, the manual form that the parents will actually fill out. This form has been updated with the new date of February 2020 on it. Then we have the NCCAA form for parent consent for medical care. You would only see the previous school years in the child's record for any child that's returned, because this form is now embedded into the consent for participation. And then we have other emergency information forms or documents that you will see under this section as well in the table of contents. So this here's the 1520 that I was speaking about on the table of contents for our database emergency contact information. As I said previously, that you will actually print this form from the database once you've put all of the emergency contact information into the database. There should be the child's name, primary caregiver. If there's a secondary adult or other adult that's listed on the child's application, then that name will also be here on the 1520 report. Then listed below that will be contacts and release to. These are all of the emergency contact people that's allowed to pick up the child from school. Remember, there must be at least two, and one of those two have to be a resident of Nueces County or Corpus Christi, Texas. Let me say it that way. Just due to the fact that it has to be someone that, for emergency purpose, that will be able to pick up the child, or if need be, the child will be dropped off to that residence. This here is the emergency contact form, the manual form that is actually filled out by the parent. There's two questions that need to be answered on this form, and they are numbered. If it does not apply to that child, then the parent is to put none or NA, but they must answer both questions. At the top of the form, you see where it says allergies and medications. Anything that the child may be allergic to, have reactions to, that need to be listed there. And if there is something listed there, then the child must and required to submit an IHCP so we can have that information on file. And again, they are to list below at least two emergency contacts other than the primary caregiver with all their information. In order to list them on here, they must have the family's name, address, city, state, zip code, and a phone number. This here's the back of that form for additional people that they may want to list. And then there's a section that says person restricted from contact with the child. If they list someone there, remember that they must have a court document stating that they are restricted from having contact with the child. The parent must sign and date this form. This form is to be filed in the child's record right behind the 1520 report of the emergency database emergency information. This is what the parent consent for medical care form looked like the previous years. Remember, the previous years will remain in the record. However, this form is now embedded into the consent for participation. Then there's other emergency information forms that or documents that you may see in the child's record if it applies to that child. There may be a divorce decree, adoption forms, CPS placement, protective orders or restraints. There will also be, if the child is picked up from a daycare center, then there should be a daycare release letter in there as well, giving permission from the parent for that school to pick up the child and for us to release them, and there should be names listed on there. Then we'll go to the table of contents, which is labeled Enrollment, the section number 2. Under this section, we'll have the notification letter, which is the child notification letter. It is created in the child's database now, and it will be printed out from the database. Then we have consent for participation form that is now created in the database as well. The school district enrollment form, which is created in the database that will need to be printed. Then we have the discipline and guidance policy that we've updated that form. And then we have the PII, parent policy notification and consent, that is created in the database and will remain in the database. Then we have the NCCAA form for parent orientation, which that form has not been updated. It's the same form that we always use. We have the playground notification that is created in the database but will be printed. Then we have the operational policy on infant safe sleep, which is created in the database and it will remain in the database, and miscellaneous. So we'll start with the notification letter. This is what the notification letter now looks like that was created in the database. The family advocate or site-based manager will complete this information in the database and then print it out and place it in and file it in the child's record. Remember, the previous years of notification letters will remain in the record. This form will just be filed on top. Then we have the consent for participation. This is what this form will now look like because it's been created in the database. Again, the family advocate and the site-based manager will complete this form. Once they've completed this form, they would place all and have signatures in every slot that needed to be signed. They would actually print and file this in the child's record. This is a 2-page document. And if a parent would like a copy, they can print one out for the parent as well. But the previous years will remain in the child's record. The most current year, which is this form here will be filed on top. Then we have the school district enrollment permission. As I said before, this here is created in the child's Child Plus database. This here will be completed again by the family advocate or site-based manager. It will then be printed and filed in the child's record. The previous year's forms will remain in the child's records as well. They will not be removed. Current form, which is this one here, will be filed on top. This here's the discipline and guidance policy form that we will now be using for our parents. You may say this looks like the one the agency used. Yes, it is. And this is the one that we'll be using as well for our parents. If you notice at the bottom of this form, it requires a signature and date. And then it has please check 1, which you will see parent and guardian. That is where the parent would check that off. This here will be filed in the child's record. This form is not created in the database. It is a manual form that the parents will actually, family advocate site-based manager will actually go over this form with the parents. They will sign, date, and check parent or guardian. This here's the PII, parent receipt. Once the family advocate or the site-based manager goes over PII with the family, the guardian, then they actually sign off on it along with the family advocate or site-based manager, that this form is created in our database and it will remain in the database. They will not have to print this out and file it into the child's record. This will remain in the database. However, the previous year's forms that we've used for PII will remain in the child's record. It will not be removed. This here is the Nueces County Community Action Agency Birth to 5 Head Start Program Parent Primary Caregiver Orientation Form. This form has not been updated. It has not changed at all. The parent signs on the line according to the participation year of the child. If it's the first year in EHS or Head Start, they would sign on the first line and date. If they are returning for the second or third year, that is the line that they will sign on and date. Now, this form is to be updated if a child transfers from one center to another center. Then they must complete this form, redo this form with the parent with the current center, but the same participation year line signed. Playground notification. We have 2 different forms for playground notification. Our sites, our regular sites, will use the Birth to 5 playground notification form, and the Head Start at the Y have their own playground location form. These forms are created in the database, and they will be printed from the database once it is filled out and filed in the child's record. The previous years would not be taken out of the record. However, the current year, which is the one that is printed from the database, will go on top. Operational infant sleep, policy on infant sleep. This is what this form now looks like, that it's been created in the database. The family advocate or site-based manager will actually fill this form out as well and go over it with the parent. They do not have to print this form out. The previous years will remain in the child's record, and this form is used for early Head Start babies only. So it's from anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 months of age. After they are 12 months, this form does not have to be used for any other child. Then we have just miscellaneous forms. And this is forms that may have been created throughout the school year, or forms that may not apply to everybody. So for over income eligibility duration parent notification, this is one that will be filed under miscellaneous. This form is only for those parents that are over our income guidelines, and we have to re-verify income each year. And a new form is filled out each year if they are still over income. This is one of the forms that will be filed under miscellaneous. And another one, for example, during this COVID school year, we had the parents to sign off or consent for virtual learning and teaching. That form is to be filed in this section as well. Then we go to the next tab of the table of contents, which is eligibility. Under eligibility, this is everything that pretty much was submitted in at the time of intake, when the parent actually came and applied for the program. So we have the review and approval form. The review and approval form is a form that is used for any child that may be staff related third year, and I'll go over that as soon as we get to the forms. This form has not changed. Then we'll go to the eligibility. We'll discuss the eligibility verification form, which has been updated, and then the Birth to 5 Head Start application, which has been updated as well. And now we've added the database application. That is because we've had parents that have applied online during this COVID season, so we've added that advantage for the parents. And so if anyone applied online, then they will have an application that was printed from the database, and it will be filed in the record. Then we have all the supporting documents as well, that's been attached to the eligibility verification. So this is what the review and approval form looks like. As I said before, this form is used for a child that may have a qualifying disability that we need to get approved over income, staff-related, third-year student. If you see that the child has the disability is checked off and income eligible is checked off as well, then the only approval and signature that you will need to see on this form will be the one from our disability and mental health staff, which is normally our disability mental health coordinator. If you see that disability is checked off and any of the other ones below over income, staff related, third year student, then we'll need it to be approved by our disability staff as well as our director. Now, if it's only over income or staff related or third year, then the only signature that is needed is the director's signature. Remember, if it's disability and income eligible only one signature is needed, which is the disability coordinator. If it's disability with any of the other three, then there's 2 signatures needed. If one of the over income, staff related, or third year student is checked off, the only signature needed is the director's signature. Then we go to the eligibility verification form. This here form is used when the parent comes in for intake of application and they've given us all of the supporting documents that's needed and required. Then we check, it's like a check and balance. We check off everything that they've submitted in and we initial to the box to the left. There's also a section on here for falsifying information, which will read off to the parent, and they actually initial in the on the line, and they actually print their name, sign, and date. When you have this form in the child's record that's been done for enrollment, make sure that all lines have a signature on them and it's dated. Then we have here the application, our NCCAA Birth to 5 Head Start application. Remember that on the application, whether it's the Spanish application or the Expecting Moms Program application, remember they must be signed and dated. We have a residency questionnaire that is also required to be filled out by the parent. Remember, the parent will need to sign and date, and the staff who actually assisted the parent with the application process must also sign and date the residency questionnaire. This is to be filed as well. Then we have the other supporting documents that may or may not be in the child's record, which is verification of school or employment, SNAP awards letter, current insurance card, verification of Section 8 or housing, verification of incarceration, and any additional documents submitted to obtain additional points for eligibility. Those are just a few of the supporting documents that's listed. Then the next section that is under Ersea will be family contacts. So the first thing that you'll see on the table of content is the contact with families, and that's the door hanger. That is what we use when we have to do a visit for a child that has not been in attendance and we've not had contact with the parent. Then we actually take a door hanger with us to do a visit. If they are not home, we leave a note, which is the door hanger, and we remove the carbon and bring the copy back to be filed in the child's record. This is just verification and proof that we did do the home visit and left a note for that parent. Then we have the tardy notice, which it's been slightly updated. We have the tardy letter, which is now in the database. We have the family advocate home visit for attendance form. We have the attendance letter, which is now created in the database. We have the attendance tardy contract, which is now created in the database as well. Request for transfer, created in the database. Release and exchange of information. It is still the same form that we've always used. And then family contact notes, which is from the database. So we'll discuss the tardy notice. Remember that after 30 days from the first signature filed, if the parent has not received a tardy letter, then this form should be filed in the child's record. If the parent has received a tardy letter that was issued to them for the child, then you may continue to use this form for additional tardies. Remember, if they've only you start counting your 30 days from the first day of the signature. So if someone signed their first tardy, initial their first tardy on February the 8th, then you have 30 days from February the 8th to use this form. If they've not received a tardy letter by the 30th day, then this tardy notice should be filed in the child's record and a new one placed in their sign in and out sheet to start another 30 days. This here is what the tardy letter now looks like that's been created in the database. Once it is read off to the parent and reviewed with the parent as to why they are receiving the tardy letter, then the site-based manager and family advocate will sign off on it and give a print a copy for the parent. This will not be needed to be printed out to be placed in the record, only a copy for the parent. The previous years, if they've had a tardy letter, will remain in the child's record. This here is the family advocate home visit for attendance form. Family advocate or site-based manager will use this form for any home visit they may need to do for attendance purposes. If they do use this form, it will be filed in the child's record. This here is what the attendance letter now looks like that has been created in the database. Again, the form is read over with the parent. Site-based manager will sign off, family advocate will sign off, print a copy out to be given to the parent. A copy will not need to be printed to place in the child's record, only for the purposes of giving it to the parent. If they've had previous year's attendance letter, they will remain in the child's record. Then we have here the attendance tardy contract. This here is also created in the database. We print a copy for the parent. The previous years will remain in the child's record. So this here tardy contract is actually done with the parent sitting in front of them, and they are discussing concerns, any barriers, and what terms they come to when it comes to the contract. This is the request for transfer that has been created in the database. The family advocate or site-based manager will actually complete this form when the parent is requesting a transfer. Then they will actually send us an email to inform us that a request for transfer is in the database. We would then print it out and file it in our binder. Once the transfer has been approved, we will actually go back into the database to complete the request for transfer, print a copy out to be given to the site in which the child is wanting to transfer to. The previous years will remain in the child's record. This here's the release and exchange of information. Remember, this release and exchange of information is only to be used once. Once you've received whatever document it is that you've requested, or you've given the parent what they've requested, then this form is no longer any good. It is void. Anytime there's a new request made, a new form must be filled out by the parent, signed off in date, and filed in the child's record. Some additional forms that we use are the expected women's application, Spanish application, self-declared guardianship, verification of no income as a form of income proof, self-employed declaration as a form of proof of income, blank affidavit form, information request form, child activity notification form. Remember, the information request form and the child activity notification form, these two forms will never be filed in the child's record. This is just information. Request form is given to the parent to inform them of what they are still needing before the child starts care. And the child activity notification is the form that is filled out on the first day that the child attends and is emailed to accordingly to the instructions. Now, we're going to get into the performance standards. We've gone over all of the manual Ersea forms and the TOC on the previous slides. So now we're going to go into the performance standards. However, if you want to pause right here, you can and take a break. However, I'm going to keep going on with this PowerPoint. This is subpart A, eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance according to performance standards. Now, I just want to stop here and make a note where you see YouTube. Please go ahead and pause and log on to open up the YouTube, more YouTubes, and have the following videos ready for viewing. The first video, as you get into the PowerPoint, it will be on confidentiality in the school setting. The picture that you will see for this video is a little black African-American girl that you will see. Then the next video will be cultural sensitivity and diversity. The picture that you will see for this video are you'll see with dogs. They're dogs sitting at a table. Then the last video is GAO, undercover GAO agent attempting to enroll into the Head Start program. Audio recording 2. Please make sure it's audio recording 2 when you type this in, because there's more than one audio recording, but I want you to see the one that's recording 2. So you'll go ahead, once you're ready and you have all of those YouTubes opened up, videos opened up, then you can go ahead and proceed back to the PowerPoint. We're going to start off with 1302.11, determining community strengths, needs, and resources. And how we do that is through the community needs assessment. The community needs assessment is done once, a comprehensive one is done once every 5 years, but it's reviewed annually for any type of changes that may have been made or any updates needed. Then we have the selection criteria, which is according to the wait list. And we determine our selection criteria according to what the community needs assessment information gives us. So the community needs assessment gathers information throughout Nueces County, giving us just a feel of what's going on in our community. And it helps us build onto what we need to do as an agency. It helps us to determine where we need to, what areas do we need to go recruit, the percentage, the rate of teen pregnancy, homelessness, disability percentage. And this lets us know whether or not we need to go up on our points for our selection criteria, or if our points are okay according to the community needs assessment. So 1302.12, determining eligibility, verifying and documenting eligibility. So we ask the question, how do we determine eligibility? As I said earlier, it's according to the child's age and the income of the family. For early Head Start, they can be 6 weeks of age to go into the program, but younger than 3. For Head Start, 3 but younger than 5 by September the 1st. So anyone that may turn 5 after September the 1st, then they still qualify for a program because they will not meet the cutoff age in order to go to kindergarten. So then we have what are called categorically eligible children. These are children that is experiencing foster care, homelessness, receive SSI, disability, and public assistance, which is TANF. When it comes to being categorically eligible for foster care and homelessness, we do not need any income from the parent or guardian. We determine with foster care placement, they just need to bring in the placement forms to show proof. For homeless, if they have verification through a shelter or a residence place that they are staying, then they can submit that in. However, it's not required. We do give the residency questionnaire for them to complete and fill out. And according to how they answer those questions, we can determine whether or not they are homeless. Then with SSI and public assistance, which is TANF, we know that that income is very low each month. So we know that they're automatically going to qualify within the income poverty guidelines. So they will automatically qualify for them for the program. It does not mean that they get into the program, but it qualifies them for the program. Then we have those that are within, we're going to discuss what relevant time period or current situation. So when we ask for income to be submitted in, we need 12 months worth of income. Income can be anywhere for 12 months worth of check stubs. It can be the previous year of their W-2 or their 1040 tax return, 12 months worth of child support. If they are receiving disability for retirement, SSI for retirement, then they can submit that in by submitting in their awards letter. So anything that shows their income within the relevant time period of 12 months. We do have what is called current situation, where we can look at what's going on with the family as of today and reflect onto what income is needed for that family. This current situation is by a case-by-case situation. Remember, they must be no older than the age required to attend public school. When they come in to apply for the program, we must conduct an interview with the family at the time of the intake. We must ask questions according to how the parent fills out the application. For example, if we see that they have 3 people in their family, but 10 people living in the home, then we start to ask questions because this may determine whether or not to categorize them as homeless or not. Lately, we've been doing over the phone interview process due to the COVID-19. However, it is highly recommended that we do in-person interviews, but we've been granted approval through the Office of Head Start due to COVID to do more of the over the phone interviews with the parents. Remember, we must also have an eligibility verification process for participants. That is the form that I showed you, the eligibility verification form, where we have a check and balance. So anything that they submitted in must be attached to that eligibility verification. So we do have to make copies of everything that they submit in. Eligibility duration. This just lets you know how much time, how long can my child stay in Head Start. For early Head Start, they can stay into Head Start and early Head Start until the age of 3. 6 months prior, which you will see a child being transitioned from one program to the next program, 6 months prior to the child turning 3, we actually do the transition process, where the parent actually comes in and meet with a family advocate to apply for the Head Start program. So all documents must be submitted in again with income, proof of income, and any other supporting documents they wish to submit in at that time as well. For Head Start, they are good for 2 consecutive school years. If they need a 3rd year, then we must re-verify income all over again. Again, if a child moves from an early Head Start program to the Head Start program, the program staff must verify the family's eligibility again. As I said before, we do that 6 months prior to the child turning 3. If a program operates both an early Head Start program and a Head Start program and the parent wishes to enroll their child who has been enrolled in early Head Start, the program must ensure whenever possible the early Head Start child receives Head Start service until enrolled in school, provided the child is eligible. So again, once we do that transition process, if the child is eligible for our program, then we do transition them into the Head Start program. So we're going to go into recruitment of children, 1302.13. The definition of recruitment area is the geographic locality within which a Head Start program seeks to enroll the Head Start children and families. So you ask, what does that mean? It's just letting you know that where can we recruit? We can recruit within, according to what our grant says. And our grant states that we recruit throughout Nueces County only. So at any time that you have a family that's enrolled into our program and they've moved out of Nueces County, please let us know. Please let the Family Advocate Site-Based Manager know so they can contact the Enrollment Center and we can guide them as to how to assist that parent with getting an alternate care for the child since they're no longer within our county, within Nueces County. Who's responsible for recruiting? Nueces County Community Action Agency. Our agency as a whole is responsible for recruiting, not just the Enrollment Center, not just the family advocates, but the agency as a whole. So we ask that anytime that you see that things are being posted on our Facebook agency page, please share it to your page because my friends are not your friends. So the more it's shared, the more people will be able to see about the Head Start program. And how do we know where to recruit? Again, it goes back to the community needs assessment with the information that we've gathered. So right now, due to COVID-19, we've not been able to do much recruitment this school year due to the fact that all community events that we normally participate in have canceled all of their events due to COVID-19. So right now, we've been pretty much doing word of mouth placing our flyer on our agency Facebook page. We've actually done some interviews with the television station, Channel 6, 10, and Channel 3 to get the word across of us doing recruitment at this time, needing families to come in to apply for our program. And we just had some yard signs made that we're just waiting to come in to place out in areas where whoever wish to have one can place it in their yard so they know how to contact us to apply for the program. So again, recruitment for our children is within Nueces County, and it is everyone's responsibility as an agency to assist with recruiting. And I thank everyone for their help and support. 1302.14, the selection process. So with the selection process, this here is a selection criteria that weighs prioritization according to the community needs assessment. We must maintain a wait list. The definition of a wait list is a list of children and families who have completed their application for the program and are waiting to enter the program when a slot becomes available. We select from our wait list through our database. It is not a first come, first serve purposes. It is according to points. Remember, the more documentation that the parents submit in, the more points they receive, the higher they are on the wait list, and the better chance they have of coming off the wait list. So we select from our wait list the one with the highest amount of criteria points. We must do enrollment for 10% of disability, children with disability, a qualified disability, and then we can do 10% of over-income families. So we're going to go in and show you a little bit about the selection criteria needs assessment. So you ask the question, what's my points? How do I know what I can get points for? Well, this form here that you see, which is cut off some, front and back, instructions for prioritization and selection criteria. So on here, you'll see 1920, 2021. 1920, those were the points that parents received. 2021, these are the points that parents received. We do have a selection criteria committee that meets once the community needs assessment is completed. We meet to analyze the data that was given to us. And then what we do is we decide whether or not we need to go up on points in certain areas according to the community needs assessment. So what we did for 2021 school year, we did go up on points for children that are experiencing homelessness, as well as children in foster care, CPS. Due to the fact that those are the target areas that the Office of Head Start, according to the community needs assessment, those are the families that they want us to really target. Children with disability, within our income guidelines, those that are experiencing homelessness, and foster care. So we took those additional points up to 200, just like the disability points. Wait list. This here is an example of our database wait list. So if you see a child's name on here, remember you're still confidential. So anyone that you may know, please do not go and share that information. So as you see that the eligibility points are to the far left, that's how we determine who comes off our list first. Again, it's not a first come, first serve basis. If you see the yellow and the red somewhere to the right where it says income status, those are the ones that are over our income guidelines. The ones in the yellow are the ones that we can use that are 100 to 130 over our income guidelines poverty lines. The ones in the red are the ones that are way over the income guidelines. So those are the ones that we cannot pull. So let's talk about 1302.15 enrollment. We must maintain funded enrollment throughout the whole school year. For early Head Start, we are funded for 362, and that is including 10 for my Expected Women's program. And for the Head Start program, we are funded for 813 children. We must fill vacancies as soon as possible. We have 30 days to fill a vacancy. That 30 days is including the weekends. So as soon as we know that there's someone that has dropped from the program, please contact the Enrollment Center so we can replace the application with a new one. And remember, if it is a child that has dropped from the program that had a qualifying disability, please let us know so we can replace with another disability application, because remember, we must maintain 10% of children with qualifying disabilities into our program. Then we have remember the third year children. Remember, we must re-verify family income all over again. So let's talk about state immunizations. We must comply with the state. So although we follow Office of Head Start performance standards, we must also abide by minimum standards with the state of Texas. So the families must provide an up-to-date immunization record for that child before the child can start service. When it comes to physicals, they must provide it within 5 days from the start of service under minimum standards. However, for the beginning of the school year, all children need to have an up-to-date physical as well. So if their physical happened to expire throughout the school year, then we'll give them a just reminder. But please remember, first day of school, all children must be up to date for starting services with immunizations and physicals. Voluntary parent participation. It is just that. It is voluntary, and it is not required as a condition of the child's enrollment to the program. So we cannot mandate parents to volunteer their time for the program. Although we want to encourage, however, it's not mandated. So let's go into 1302.16 on attendance. We must contact our families within 1 hour from the start of service for attendance. We must track attendance. And how do we track attendance? We track attendance within our database. Our managers, they actually do the attendance in the database, which is done on the Tuesday. The previous week is inputted in the database by the Tuesday of the following week. So we must maintain a monthly average daily attendance average of 85% per child throughout the month, that month. If a child falls below that 85%, what are we going to do? That's right, we're going to give that parent an attendance letter just to kind of let them know that we're really concerned about this child's attendance. But for our homeless families, we must allow the child to attend up to 90 days without immunizations and any other required records under state licensing requirements. Remember, we as an agency must assist with any type of resources that's needed for that parent, to assist that parent in getting whatever documents that they are needing or what's required for them to get. So attendance, staff responsibilities. Remember, we want to encourage regular attendance. When a child is absent without contact, the following steps are initiated within 1 hour from the start of service. The first and second day, the classroom staff will notify the family advocate or the site-based manager so they can contact the family. However you want to set that up, that's your That's your prerogative. You do it however you want to do it. What I've learned that most centers are doing though is when the family advocate get the count for the lunch count, that's the best time and the opportunity to ask who's not in attendance, um, that hasn't called, so then they can make the contact to the family. Um, Remember, 1 hour from the start of service, so right after breakfast, we should be contacting the staff. The staff should be notifying us of who did not call for the day, who is not in attendance. The performance standards changed this standard to 1 hour due to the fact that a lot of the children were getting left on the school buses, or when parents' schedule kind of changed and the other parent had to take the child that normally don't take the child, and forgot to make that turn off and instead went straight to work, and then remembered that the child was in the back seat. Well, this is why we have to do that hour contact now, within that hour, so we can make sure that the child is actually safe. So by the third day, if we've still not heard from that parent as to why the child is not in attendance, again, we must contact the family, but this time we must make a home visit. This is where we're going to take our door hanger and we're going to take that family advocate home visit for attendance form with us. So just in case the parent isn't there, we can leave that door hanger, but if the parent is there, we're going to make our notes on that form. And we're going to assess the family situation and provide any necessary referrals. After 5 consecutive days without contact with the family, the child may be dropped from the program. But remember, before we drop, let's make every effort to find out what's going on with that family. Communication is the key. Then we're going to go into 1302.18 with fees. Remember, our program, we do not charge any fees for our program. We are federally funded. Our services are free of charge. That's whether there's a special event going on, if you have a field trip, something planned at the center. Remember, we do not charge fees. Our program is free of charge. Some sites do have what they call wish trees, wish lists, where the parents will volunteer to sign up to bring something, or take that leaf off the tree that has markers written on it, or whatever the case may be. That's fine, but it's not mandated by Office of Head Start. We cannot charge fees. It's not mandated for parents to bring in anything, only if they want to volunteer for it. And remember, it's classroom usable. They can get the in-kind donation for it. So now we're going to go into confidentiality PII. PII is personally identifiable information. 1303.22, disclosures with and without parental consent. Remember, everything in the child's record is confidential. You can share information with the primary caregiver. If there's a secondary or other adult listed, then you can share information about that child to them. So remember, when grandma comes to pick up that child and grandma is not listed on the application and she asks, how was little Johnny's day? Remember, we cannot share that information with her because she's not listed as the secondary. She is listed to give permission to pick up, but however, we must get parents, the primary caregiver's consent to release any information concerning that child. If they're not listed on the application, remember they can use the blank affidavit, have the parent fill it out, make a note of who it is that she's given permission to release information concerning little Johnny about, and she needs to list what we can discuss with that person about little Johnny. If it's parent conferences, if it's about attendance issues, if it's about behavior, then she needs to be very specific of what type of information we can share with that person. Now, when it comes to CPS, licensing, court orders, anything that's subpoenaed, we can release that information to those entities without the parent consent. Okay? Now, this is where I want you to stop and take time to get that video together on confidentiality in the school setting. So go ahead. This one here looks like confidentiality in the school setting. I want you to go ahead, if you can, try to click on it and see if it'll go ahead and play. If not, go ahead and open up your your YouTube and share this video. With this video, with confidentiality, it's just discussing the importance of what we can share or how to handle situations with confidentiality in the school setting. Getting the 411, interviewing with cultural sensitivity. 1302.12A1, cultural diversity examples. Avoid stereotypes with communicating. Now, cultural, the definition, a combination of thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, values, and behavior patterns that are shared by a racial, ethnic, religious, or social group. Cultural will influence the ways we decide to meet our basic daily needs, ranging from the most visible factors, such as diet, dress, and health, to the assumptions people make about themselves, their relationships with others, and their own priorities. Cultural diversity, tips for communicating with cultural awareness. Let's go ahead and pause if we need to, or let's go ahead and try to click on this video as well to see if it would go ahead and open up to play for us. If not, please go to the YouTube so we can talk about cultural sensitivity and diversity. Now remember, with cultural sensitivity and diversity, remember we are not to stereotype parents and children in any way, form, or fashion. No matter how they look, what they drive, how they dress, what purse they carry. Remember, we can even their attitude, their accent. Remember, we do not discriminate. Everybody has a different makeup, a different belief, a different background, a different culture, ways of doing things, ways of saying things, ways of handling things. So remember, we are not to stereotype any parent or child. We need to be sensitive to their family, to their culture, to their background. If everyone was the same, we would be so bored because everyone did everything the same. So we need that diversity. We need difference. And it's okay for us to be different. So in this video is a little humor behind it when you see the ending of it as to why they're talking about this new person that's being hired. So remember, let's be careful when we with cultural sensitivity and diversity. Let's be careful not to prejudge, stereotype, and prejudice towards certain ethnic backgrounds, groups, families, because remember, everybody is different. No one's the same. So now we're going to discuss power differences. Each person in the relationship has a perspective of who has the power. Then there's power over, and then we have shared power. So which one do you think will work with your parents? Power over, where you're constantly on top of them. Why are you late? What happened now? Where's the in-kind? Or shared power. Hey, Mom, is there something that's going on as to why Johnny's late? Would you care to share? There's a difference of ways of communicating. Power over or shared power. Let's see which one would work. We want to develop a sense of shared power with our families. The benefits of shared powers is you would respect one another, trust comes involved in play, supporting each other, non-threatening behavior towards each other, Shared responsibility. With shared responsibility, sometimes the parent would think it was their idea. By the way you say it and state it, it was actually your idea, but the parent would actually think it was their idea. But shared responsibility is a great benefit from shared power. Open communication and a stronger partnership between you and that parent, that family. So now we're going to talk about case notes. We know that we put our case notes into the database, which is into the communication log in Child Plus. The purpose of case notes. Why do we do case notes? It's a form of documentation that record information. It records interactions with the children and the families. Good case notes give insight and understanding of individuals and situations. Good case notes provide accuracy, fact, and evidence. Case notes record face-to-face and phone calls. And remember, even the Remind app or the Class JoJo that is used now. What should it include? The substance. We should have on there the date of the case note. Remember, at the time that you're speaking to the parent, after you speak to the parent, remember, you're not going to have time to go in and put that communication log in. So try to keep a little notepad close to you in your pocket, on a counter somewhere. So when you're finished discussing anything with a parent, you want to just jot down real quick the date, the child's name, and kind of like a topic of what you, to remind you of what to go back and write in your case notes. You want to write in that the method of contact. Did Ms. Johnson come in? Did Ms. Johnson email you? Was it a phone call? Was it through the Remind app or Class JoJo? Be very specific as the method of contact. And then the full name title of the staff member making the note. If you want to click on the clock on the communication log when you're putting in your case notes, that's fine. You can click on the clock and you can update the date to the date that you actually spoke to the parent. Because when you click on the clock, it's going to have that date that you're actually going to input the case note. But you want to change the date to the date that you actually spoke to the parent. Then you want to put in the description of the event. That's where you're going to write what it is that you're speaking about, that you're concerned, or something that you saw little Johnny do different, and that you communicated with the parent. If you answer the who, what, when, where, the process. Who did you speak with? What happened today? What is due next? When is it due? When did you speak with that person? Where did the contact occur? Where is the event going to be held? If you answer those questions, you pretty much covered your case notes. Remember, update the case notes frequently and promptly. So as soon as you get that half a day, or as soon as we have that day off where staff development day, you want to take advantage of those dates, and that's where you can go back and put your case notes, start putting in your case notes into the communication log. While the information is still fresh in your mind, write it down. Write it down on your little tablet. Frequency makes it easier for someone else to pick up where you left off if you are called away from the case. So if you're transferred to another site, then at least someone will know what you've been going through by reading your case notes and can continue where you actually left off. Case note at any time there is an interaction with your parent, whether it was a phone call, in person, etc. Professionalism is very important. Avoid using slang, street language, cliches, or jargon. Use professional terminology as well as correct capitalization and punctuation. So if you see that squiggly red line, go ahead and right click and correct. Avoid metaphors. Just say what you mean directly. Do not write so cryptic that no one knows what you are writing about. Address the behavior. Be very specific as to what you're seeing. Do not state customer is victim of domestic violence. Do not identify medical diagnosis. That's pretty much where you write a case note where I think Johnny has ADHD. We're not doctors, we're not nurses, so we cannot diagnose a medical condition. You can tell or describe little Johnny's behavior in your case note, but you do not want to try to identify a medical diagnosis. Omit details of clients' intimate lives that do not have an impact on the plan. So we're going to leave personal relationships outside the door. We're not going to be writing personal information into the database just because you know something about that person, that family's personal life. We're going to omit that. Quality control. Remember, managers, review the case notes to monitor progress. Report 4130 in Child Plus in the database will let you know who who haven't put in a case note. You can filter that report. Auditors review your case notes for compliance with state and federal policy and procedures. So remember, you never know who will be reading your case notes. You don't have to write as if you're writing a book, but you want to get your point across. Remember, you're responsible for putting one case note per month per child in your classroom. Only one case note. We know that you communicate throughout the month with your parent. So please, 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 I can't stress enough, please feel free to input as many case notes as you can. The more of a picture that you paint for us, the better off. In case something ever happens, something is needed due to court, your case notes will save you. If you see that the child is constantly tardy all the time and you're speaking to the parent about it, please make sure you write that case note in the communication log. Now, remember to not use the child case notes. Child case notes is for individuals. So if individual concerns. So if there's, for example, if there's a case of head lice going on for the child, then you want to put that in the child case notes. You don't want to put that under the communication law. So there's different things that we'll put in the child case notes versus the communication law. Okay. Now we're going to discuss fraud. Here's what HHS, which is U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has to say about fraud. The policy state identifies fraud as a waste and abuse of grant funds that includes embezzlement, misuse, or misappropriation of property, and false statements by organization or individuals. Staff, any misuse of agency funds, which may reflect eligibility documents, falsifying personal information on the application, agency supplies for personal use, falsifying timesheets, meal counts, falsifying in-kind donation documents, coaching applicants on how to get into the program, that's fraud. As well as parents for falsifying documents and situations to get into the program. Disciplinary actions, you can be terminated from the program. Parents can be, the child can be disqualified or terminated from the program for falsifying documents, and staff can be disciplined as well for misuse and abuse of the agency funds. Now this here's where we want to stop as well and get that last video for this fraud section. This one here is the GAO, undercover GAO agent attempting to enroll into the Head Start program, the audio recording number 2. Again, you can go ahead and try to click on this to see if it will play. If it plays, great. If not, go ahead and open up the YouTube and watch this short clip. It is very short, just showing how the Head Start worker was coaching us to how to get into the program. Okay, So now we're going to go over our post-test. We've gone through the whole PowerPoint, and I hope you really enjoyed it. So we're actually going to go over the post-test that is on the agenda for Ersea. The first question is, what is Ersea? The answer is there: eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance. The next question is, we should treat all parents with dignity and respect. That is so true. That is one of the PowerPoints that we went over discussing diversity and stereotyping. This is where this come in, treating parents with dignity and respect. Then number 3, the definition of fraud is misuse, abuse, misappropriation, falsifying, and waste of grant funds. That answer is true as well. Number 4, selection from the wait list is on a first come, first served basis. Is that true or false? You're right, it is false. Remember, when we do selection, it is according to the wait list and by points. Then we go to number 5. Staff must document case notes in the database. We just went over that, and that is true. You may not be able to do it when you want to right then and there, but you will have time to go back and put your case notes in. Number 6, staff must do an interview process at intake of eligibility. That is true as well. Remember, I stated that we must do an in-person interview process at intake. However, the Office of Head Start has given us permission to do over the phone due to this COVID-19 pandemic that's going on. So number 7 has a 2-part to this question. Must teachers review the children's records? You're right. You must review the children's records in your classroom, for your classroom. And how many hours did I say that you have for new enrollment, for the record to be reviewed? You're right, 48 hours. You have 48 hours to review that record, get your classroom set up for that child that's coming in, that new child that's coming in, so that child can be ready to go. And remember, teachers, it is your responsibility to make that call to let the child know the start date. Now, if the family advocate wants to take that responsibility, that's fine. But just note, it is your responsibility to give the date, make that last call to let the parent know that the child is ready to start on the date that is given to you by the family advocate or site-based manager. And then the last question is, what is PII? You're right, personally identifiable information, PII. So at this time, I just want to thank you all staff, for your hard work, your dedication to the children, families of, and all staff of Nueces County Community Action Agency. I pray that you would just have a successful school year for 2020-2021. And if you have any questions on any part of this PowerPoint that you need answers to, please feel free to direct those questions to your manager, and then the manager will pass those questions along to Ms. Bonda. Ms. Bonda will forward them to me. I will answer those questions for you and forward them back to your manager to answer any questions that you may have. Again, thank you, and have a great year this year. Bye-bye.